Hi, welcome to my channel, Locs Life, where I talk about all things Locs related, including my own Locs journey, as well as my blog, Locs Life, where I celebrate and highlight things about the Locs experience. So if you're like me, you notice that parts of your locks are a lighter shade than when you first locked your hair. I'm about 6 years locked, and probably around 2 or 3 years locked, I started to notice that parts of my locks were a lighter shade of brown. So I decided to look into it to see exactly what it was. And it's not anything bad per se, though there are some bad parts to it, and I'll tell you a bit about what I found. But basically what it is the sun is dyeing your hair a lighter shade of brown. And if you're in a sunny location like me, you'll notice it'll be like maybe a little bit more prominent or happen faster in your locks journey. And so basically what it is that your hair has melanin in it, just like your skin. And the sun, though, actually in your hair will break down the melanin and cause your hair to sort of, turn a lighter shade of brown. It's not anything dangerous because like your hair is already dead anyway, but like what I was saying, the bad part is that it can make your hair perhaps like a little bit more prone to breakage. So that's something that you might notice on the areas where it's like much lighter than your hair as it grows out of your scalp. Also, if you use lemon juice on your hair, you might notice as well that your locks turn a lighter shade more quickly or more deeply as well. So for me, I don't really mind the lighter shade of brown. Like I said, it's more prominent on like the top, and like you almost don't notice it much. It's really only when you're comparing like the sort of parts of your locks that don't get exposed to the sun, that's where you sort of notice the variation. But if you wanted your hair like sort of jet black and you don't like it, I guess you could always dye your locks, or stay out of the sun, I guess, are probably like your best options there. Yeah, kind of another quirky thing that you might notice or you might want to keep in mind with like your locks turning brown in the sun is that if you're doing a lock repair on like the parts of your hair that have been more exposed to the sun, if you want to match the color, you're gonna have to use a lighter color if, like I said, if you want it to match. So I've done some lock repair on my locks. So for example, this one, and I'll get like a picture. We got a picture so it's more clear. But the ends, which I use part of my own hair, sort of new growth, it's darker since it's like newer hair. But over here, this part of my locks has been exposed to the sun longer. So there's a bit more of a color variation. But this, like, it's been a few months since I repaired this one. So it's already starting to fade a little bit more, and like the discrepancy is not as big as when I first did it. But yeah, that's something that you might notice is that if you are repairing your locks, that like the color's not gonna match. And if you do want it to match, like make sure you get a lighter shade of brown so that it's like a little bit more seamless. So, and I have some other places too where I've like this one same is old, so it's like I'm also gonna do some more repair here actually because it's kind of thinning a little bit. This one I have done some repair on the thinningness here, but so like most of this is darker, though there is some like lighter pieces intermixed from how I repaired it. But yeah, so that's something you might notice or might want to keep in mind if you want your locks to match. Make sure you go like a lighter shade for these areas that are more exposed to the sun. There are some other color things that can happen with your locks. So you might notice sort of white little flakes almost dispersed throughout your locks that don't come off, and that is sort of bulbs of your root that are becoming stuck in the locks as you relock your hair. And so you're always going to have some of it that's going to occur. It's just the natural part of the hair growing process is that I think it's like on average you lose maybe around 80 hairs per day. So but because your hair is locked, it kind of gets stuck So you will see some of those. If you don't like them, you can sort of like use some scissors on the outside and go like that to like get them cut off. To some extent, you can dye your locks too. But if you see like an excessive amount of it, of like the little white root bulbs, there might be a sign of over locking your hair too tightly. And then another sign that that's happening too is you might see thinning in your locks. So there's a couple causes of thinning too, and I can get into that in a later video. But that's something that you might see too, along with the sort of white little flakes in your hair. A final color thing that you might notice, that you weren't anticipating, is you might notice some yellow sort of splotchy parts of your lock. It's maybe a little bit dull too. So that is unfortunately the dreaded buildup that's likely occurring in your hair. So if you use heavy creams or butters or gels to relock your hair, you're going to be really prone to getting buildup in your locks. And it's like if you were to actually open up the lock, you would notice the how yellow or maybe sticky it is in that buildup. And don't be too discouraged if you see signs of the buildup. You can get rid of it. It's just going to take some extra love and care. You're going to have to do a couple deep clarifying washes to sort of get that stubborn buildup out, but it is possible.